So you were playing basketball since you were 17 years old, and this is the first season since then you haven't been doing it. It's got to feel a little weird tonight, being here with us, which we're happy about.
No, you know what? It feels natural, actually. I never would imagine saying that years ago, right? But feeling completely at peace with the decision and time to step away from the game. I feel, it's weird. I mean, I didn't know opening night was tonight until I spoke to a friend yesterday, and he said, "Are you going to watch the game tomorrow night?" I said, "What game?" He said, "Well, opening night started." I was like, "Oh, didn't realize it."
Right.
So
you're not watching the game, and you're not checking the score.
No, unless some great entrepreneur in here has some new technology where I can put glasses on and watch the game simultaneously while talking to you people.
Right.
I'm missing it.
They may. Okay, so when you were playing ball, I think you shot about, what was your field goal percentage, 45% or so?
I have no idea.
Okay, somewhere around there, 45%.
No idea.
Here's what I'm wondering. Are you ready to shoot 5%, as a good venture capitalist might be lucky to?
No. I'm going to shoot higher than that. I think it's a different transition, because, from an investor perspective, it's a different ball game, because in basketball and in sports, you're used to having immediate gratification. Right? You come to a game, you play that night, you either win or you lose.
Right.
And there's not so much of the patient game that takes place on the surface. Right, but the way I approach it is, I'm used to having this patient approach, because when you start training camp, you're building the tools necessary to win a championship. So you have to have the patience. You have to strategically build out this structure of your offense, this structure of your defense for the first month of the season, then move on to the second phase and the third phase. And you patiently build it up. So, the way I'm approaching the second phase of my life is the same way.
Right, but that said, even the best venture capitalists will say they got a lot of losers in their portfolios. So, when you think about your risk tolerance for failure, how far are you willing to fail?
Well, I mean, unfortunately and fortunately, I failed quite a bit.
Yeah.
But I understand that's actually part of the process of succeeding. I'm not one that really believe in failure. I believe you have setbacks. And, you have to learn from those. You have to learn what are those landmines that can be avoided the next time. What are those pitfalls? And you have to learn from that stuff. And so, I welcome those things. It's a part of life.
But are you prepared to, really fail at something totally new? What if you're just a shitty VC?
Then I'm a shitty VC,
yeah.
And then I work at it, and then I'm not a shitty VC the next year, or, whenever it happens.
Yeah.
Listen, my first year in the league on national TV, 18 years old, I shot 5 straight air balls in the playoffs in front of millions of people.
Yeah.
I think my tolerance is pretty high.
Yeah.
I think I'm all right.
Right. It does seem such a unique collision. Here you have, at one point you're an incredibly accomplished person, and yet you're also a novice in a lot of ways. It's just a strange collision.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Why does it feel awesome?
Because you go back to the basics. I mean, that's the most beautiful part about any craft is starting at the beginning. Mm-hmm. That is the most purest form of artistry, because you have to learn the building blocks, every little step, all the fundamentals. I mean, that's the most beautiful part to me. The championships are a byproduct of things, drills and exercises that I did when I was 6 years old. I absolutely love where I am.
So you're a student of footwork, right? To use a basketball analogy, right? Footwork is where it all starts. Mm-hmm. So from the best you can tell so far, what is the footwork of entrepreneurship of the craft you're building today?
Focus. Don't it's you gotta go with things that you understand. Mm-hmm. Businesses that things that you can really get your arm around, and not speak on things that you know nothing about.
Right. So
right?
what do you
if you
not
sit
know
here tonight
about?
and you ask me a question I know nothing about, I'm going to say I know nothing about that shit.
Okay. So what do you not know anything about, and what do you feel comfortable knowing things about?
I kind of had to get a class today on what can be said and what can't be said in terms of regulations. When you have a fund, you can say this, you can't say that. I have no idea. I come from an industry where you can just shoot from the hip, and if you say you play like crap, you play like crap.
Right. Right. So what can't you say? And can you say it?
Well, I can't say it, which is like sitting here for me. It's like having handcuffs around my tongue because I can normally just blip, blurt it out. If you like it, cool, and if you don't, cool.
All right. So focus. Tell us about your fund. People may not know exactly what you're doing, so just give us the basics and tell us some things, maybe an investment or two that you are excited about that shows the focus that you described.
Well, I mean, we started, my partner and I, Jeff Stibel.
Who's here tonight.
Who's here tonight.
Yeah.
About 3 years ago, I started looking at what comes next. And I started looking in the investment space primarily, when you're in the NBA and you're a young player, you have all these meetings. And you sit around with a lot of financial people and they explain to you how you need to save and how post-career, if you continue to live the lifestyle that you're accustomed to, eventually that money's going to run out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I started kind of sitting there thinking, okay, what is the counter to that? How can I use the influence that I currently have now to build something of value that won't dwindle over time, but actually
you were thinking
grow
this when
over
you
time.
were 19?
No, I started thinking this when I was about 34, 35 or
All
so.
right.
When you rupture your Achilles and you're sitting in bed, you have a lot of time to think.
Right.
And when it hit me, I wish I had thought about it earlier. So anyway, Jeff and I started our fund and started investing our own capital, and seeing where that comes, seeing where that leads to, and I actually started enjoying it, and started seeing great potential here, and hopefully it can be a great example for other athletes. Because right now, the model, the way it's set up, like athletes will get endorsement deals, right, and you get the cash. And
but once you're out of the game, you're out of the game.
That's
right?
exactly right, because eventually that money runs dry, right? So how can you use the influence that you currently have and create somewhat of a hybrid model of endorsement money where you have that liquidity, but also you build something of long-term value.
Right. So give us an example of something you're excited about that you've invested in.
Well, I think we have a couple of our CEOs here, actually. I think Cindy is here from VIP Kids. There she is. She's awesome.
And so VIP Kids is where you have English language teachers in the U.S. primarily, right? Teaching kids in China English.
Right. And yeah, I mean, that's basically
so
it.
America is the sweatshop for China. Is that a fair way to put it?
Yeah, your way to put it, not mine.
All right. All right.
No, but it's really about inspiring the kids in China to understand that there's a much, much bigger world out there and helping them have the opportunities. I mean, I'm sure you guys sat here and talked today at length about companies in China really strategizing about coming to the U.S., right? And that starts at a very, very young level, and kids understanding the market, understanding the branding, understanding the language, right? So you got to take small steps. And I also think Walter Driver is here from Scopely, who's absolutely crushing it. Hopefully,
and tell us about Scopely.
So Walter is crushing it. And
can you tell us about Scopely?
Scopely is the #1 gaming publishing company in the world. I mean, right now, The Walking Dead has been absolutely killing it. The latest game, Wheel of Fortune, has been #1. I mean, Walter is absolutely amazing. But Walter and Cindy both, I mean, they're strong CEOs, extremely smart CEOs, but they even have a stronger team with them.
Right.
And as an investor, those are things that we look at. Right? You don't want to have a CEO that believes he knows everything or she knows everything. You want to be able to have a CEO that understands they need to build a team around them that's sharper and smarter than they are.
And do you think your life being on teams helps you really truly understand a team in a business setting? Maybe it's totally different.
No,
like if you need someone to block out or pass the ball, that's fine. But if you need a finance function or HR, these have got to be different disciplines, right?
No, they're completely different disciplines, but the core competencies are absolutely the same. You have to rely on others in order to have success as a group. Even as an individual, right? And, I had to learn that the hard way. I mean, I wasn't passing for shit. Like, dude, I got this, dude. Like, you go stand over there and just wait. If it comes to you, pass it back. You know what I mean? So I kind of had to learn the process. And then once you understand how to trust that, and then 5 championships later, you understand how that thing works. So I don't have to learn that approach.
Right. But now you have to identify it in other people.
Yes, you do.
Right. So how do you judge? Right? These people might be great individuals. Maybe they just shoot the ball all day long and they're not playing team ball.
Well, for me, it's really easy. When you sit down and you talk with somebody, and when I talk with Cindy, and she's telling me about VIP Kids, she cannot stop it's like one idea after the other. It's like, and we're doing this and we're doing that, and we started with this, we started with that, and the passion comes out of them. You don't have to search for it. It's right there in front of you. Right. We sit down and talk basketball. I can talk about it absolutely all day long and tell you every coverage, every counter, blah, 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 blah. And that's when you know an entrepreneur has true passion for it, and you got to start there.
Right. Okay, so how do you judge when that passion perhaps has gone too far? You yourself might say, right, you were at times too intense with what you were doing. Mm-hmm. So how do you judge that calibration that you're discussing?
It's not about judging it. It's about fine-tuning it. I was very fortunate to have Phil Jackson, who allowed me to run. Yeah.
They got a fan.
Applause for Phil. Must be a Knicks guy, too.
He should be getting booed for that,
Laker
by
Phil.
the way. Yeah.
All right, my man.
All right.
But Phil was able to mentor me and guide me. He didn't try to control. Right. So when you see that in somebody, you see that passion in somebody, you have to let them run. You just try to help guide them along so they can learn those lessons as they go, and not make any fatal errors along the way.
Right. I think you said recently, along the way, you wish you were more empathetic.
Yeah.
So I think this is a really important question for a lot of people in the audience, because there are a lot of hard-charging, very successful, very committed people, and maybe they don't suffer fools very well. So how did you personally make the journey from dedication and passion to empathy?
Mm-hmm. Because I wanted to win.
Yeah.
It's like my approach of doing it is not working. So what can I do differently? And then from there, I started working backwards and saying, okay, how am I communicating with Pau Gasol? How am I communicating with Lamar Odom? What could I change? What are they going through? What are they feeling? And when we lost in the finals to the Celtics in 2008, that was a turning point. Mm-hmm. So when I sat there in the hotel room afterwards, I started thinking about that, because it's on me. If I didn't feel like my teammates were aggressive enough, that falls on me. Mm-hmm. And I had to understand what their journey was. How are they feeling as people? What are they going through? When you do that, you have that empathy. It also helps you to be a better leader, because you know how to reach them better. You know how to communicate to them better.
But could you have been as good as you were if you had the empathy from the start?
Better, because it cuts both ways, right? And I may say something that sounds completely psychotic, but just bear with me for a second. So when you have empathy towards your teammates, it helps you communicate better, helps you be a better leader, right? But when you have empathy towards your opponents, it helps you destroy them quicker. Right? Seriously, think about it. Because you understand exactly who they are. You understand what they've gone through. You understand what buttons to push. You understand if they're insecure. You understand if they fear embarrassment. And you can really hit those buttons.
Can you give us an example, an on-court example of that, just for kicks?
Yeah. So when we played teams, there would be certain teams that had like a player that they just signed to a max contract, right? And then the supporting player who was up for free agency, but they hadn't signed yet, right? So when we play them during the season, I'm saying, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to double team the guy that hasn't gotten a max contract yet. We're not going to let him get a shot off. And then we're going to single cover the guy that has the max contract, and then watch the guy that doesn't have the max contract bitch and complain about not getting the ball all night long and just watch them divide each other. Right? And those are little subtle things that we would do that simply comes from observation and understanding your opponent.
Wow, I like that.
So what's completely weird or what?
No, that's brilliant.
Okay.
What's the business equivalent?
I don't know. I haven't figured that out. I haven't been doing it long enough to do that shit, man. I don't know.
So you obviously have a lot of value to companies that want to do business around the world, say particularly China. Your celebrity has value in this world, right? People like whistling at you today. How do you personally separate what your celebrity brings and all the other thinking that you bring? And are you okay using your celebrity, or might there be times where you're like, you just want me for my image? I want to use sort of this new part of me. How do you deal with that?
It depends. It depends on the company. There are certain companies that line up with what the brand represents, and then at those times you can kind of look at using the name and likeness to benefit the company, right? There are other things that are more investment focused, right? But you simply do the work. And, what I sit around and what I enjoy a lot is the branding aspect of it. I've been doing it for years now with Nike and so forth, and writing campaigns and coming up with the whole through line. And the best way to separate those things is to simply do the work. You can't sit here and say, okay, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and try to convince people about it. You have to simply do the work. And over time, you'll build that credibility.
Right. So how would you judge your credibility right now when you go to VC meetings and you're giving them business advice, right? You just transition into this.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, when I came into the league and I sit down in a room and I'm speaking to players and other athletes and they're looking at me, I don't know what they're thinking about me, nor do I care. Right? Because I know the trust and the credibility comes in the work itself.
Right.
So when we sit around and we discuss the brand, we discuss the company, we discuss the story, we discuss who you are as a company, what do you represent, what do you stand for, and then in turn, how does that connect to the innovation that you're bringing in a product, and then how do those two things connect to human nature as a whole, and then how do you communicate those in an efficient way?
Human nature as a whole. So I was on the same stage last night with Reed Hastings, and he had this sort of magical equation, right? He said, how do we translate the money that we invest into the joy for our users? So what is your secret sauce of human nature?
Yeah, it's truth. It's absolute truth. You got to be true to who you are as a person. You understand that everybody's journey, like we sit in this room right now, everybody has a different journey how we got here, right? But there's also a through line that connects all of us, right? There's a through line. And so the trick really becomes in how do you communicate that very narrow focus in a way that connects that through line to every single person in this room.
Right.
And, that's what I enjoy doing. That's the fun part.
So another part of what you're doing is Kobe Studios, I think trying to get those storylines to people. So give us some examples of where you can give truth to people about themselves.
Well, I mean, sports is for me, it's very easy to communicate that, right? So, the best way to do it, again, is just to give you an example. So what I alluded to earlier about not making that pass, right? You got to track that back to the way I grew up. I mean, I grew up in Italy, grew up by myself, relying on myself, and, not trusting others because I'm in a foreign country and all sorts of stuff. So when you translate that to the game of basketball, of course, I'm much more comfortable relying on myself to shoot through a double team than I am to passing to somebody else because I can control the situation, right? So how do you communicate that through stories to raise the level of consciousness of the next generation of athletes? And I'm young kids, I'm talking 9 to 12 years old, speaking about these very complex issues in a very simple and entertaining
so how do you?
way.
Tell us what that means in the storytelling way.
You simply do it through story. So I've, again, not to geek out, but for the last 3 years.
Geek out. We're a bunch of geeks.
I sit at home and now in the office and do nothing but write all day and outline all day and outline stories, outline sports mythological universe. And
wait, so wait, you tell me you're doing a make superheroes? Kobe
well,
superheroes?
we'll be doing novels. We'll be doing films.
Kids aren't reading novels.
I think they will.
Yeah. So wait, you're writing a novel?
I think they will.
Is that news here? You're writing a novel?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe it is. I mean, a lot of people don't really pay attention to what I have to say, so. Maybe
so wait, so what's the name of the novel?
Don't have one yet.
What's the plot of the novel?
Can't tell you that.
Okay. What's the purpose of the novel?
To inspire. To inspire. But also to give very specific details. So like, I feel like we've dropped the ball. If you take basketball, for example, I really feel like we've dropped the ball in teaching the game, right? So how can you take a 10-year-old and teach them strategy about the game of basketball, how to handle a double team, how to look at angles on the court? How can you do that in a very entertaining way where the kid doesn't understand he's learning something at a very, very high level, but still he's processing it? When I was a kid, to work on my left hand, I'd go home and I'd eat with my left hand. I brush my teeth with my left hand. I try to write my name with my left hand just so I get comfortable with that, right? And those are little stories that we can bring to the masses.
But do you think that most kids today simply don't have the attention span to do that?
No, I don't think the stories are good enough, honestly.
Okay. Do you think
if the stories are good, kids will pay attention. If the story's horrible, of course they're not going to pay attention.
What do you think about esports? A lot of talk about esports here today. I just may not get it. Like, if you want to play video games, okay. If you want to watch other people play video games, that just seems pretty lame to me.
Well, what I know so far is, what everybody's kind of saying about where this industry is going. I haven't really dove into it to be able to sit here and give you a really detailed answer or response to it. But I get it. It's a form of entertainment.
Sure.
It's looking at the sport being played through a different lens. But it's all entertainment.
Right. Okay. So, any other projects that you're working on from the storytelling perspective that you can tell us about? An opera, perhaps?
A what?
An opera, perhaps?
Nah.
No. Okay.
Nah, that's not. I can't. No.
You can't do that.
No.
What's the writing process like for you?
It's awesome. It's outlining. Outlining is the most fun part for me because you can't just say, okay, this is the through line, this is the main character. You have to be able to look at it and say, okay, who is the main character? Why are they the way that they are? Which leads back to their upbringing. Who are the parents? Where do they come from?
So that is
How are they
mythology,
raised?
right?
You got to go all the way back. You got to create the geography. You got to create the economics of the world that you've created. I mean, it's like a whole thing. So I was thinking at first, okay, I'm going to sit down. We're going to write a novel. It's great. It's fantastic. And then I start asking question after question, and 2.5 years later, I'm still outlining.
Wait, so let me get this. You were a playing NBA player and you were writing a novel.
Yeah, I mean, the last day, my last game, I was actually at the office till 4 o'clock, or 4:15, actually editing a bunch of short stories.
Right.
And lost track of time and looked at my watch and was like, oh, I better go home.
Right.
I got my last game to play.
Huh. Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
So you spend a lot of time with these tech people. You're a truth teller. So give us your honest impressions of these people you meet. Like, what are the good parts and what are the bad parts?
I haven't really seen any bad part. I mean, the people that I've met with and talked to and deal with are all phenomenal. I mean, they all have brilliant ideas. And they all believe that their product is going to bring something of value to the world. So I've actually enjoyed every single part of it. And you get to learn so much about different industries.
Right.
And for a curious person, I can't think of a better place to be.
Right. So do you want to be known long term as Kobe Bryant, the storyteller and business person who happened to be a basketball player, or the basketball player who had a successful career thereafter?
No, it depends who you talk to. I mean, if
Well,
you
I'm
talk
talking to you.
Well, I'm saying if you ask that question to a writer who's never seen a basketball game before, I would
Yeah.
love to be known as a kick-ass storyteller.
Right.
Right? If you talk to an athlete that doesn't like reading a book or anything, then I like to be known as a phenomenal basketball
Right,
player.
right.
Personally, I would love to be both because I am both.
Right.
Right? You can't shelf one for the other. I mean, the game has brought me to where I am today. The investment platform, the Bryant Stibel platform, the storytelling that we're doing is going to put me where I will be 20 years from now.
Okay. So where do you, if you had to take your best guess, 20 years from now,
Where am I going to be 20
are
years from now?
you running Time Warner or AT&T Time Warner or whatever the hell they're going to call it?
No, listen, man. I know my strengths and weaknesses, and running a public company and giving good standard political answers is not my strength.
Okay.
So
Not going to do that. All right.
when that happens, I will gladly step away and just deal with the
But
creative
would you be
aspects.
happy doing, I don't know, 3 or 4 great stories or film franchises or even 3 or 4 great novels? Like, that's a
Well,
pretty good legacy.
Yeah, well, it depends how big they are, right? I mean, we really want to create something that is epic, and the patience of making sure every detail is cared for, making sure you're hitting the proper beats from a plot perspective.
Right.
The patience, the detail. So hopefully we can create something that is absolutely epic and timeless. And if it isn't timeless, honestly, we won't put it out. When we put it out, it's because we believe that it is the best work that we can possibly do.
Do you think that people looking for inspiration from sports figures, is that a reasonable approach for them? Can we learn something from sports figures, or is that just kind of a myth unto itself?
Depends how you look at it, right? So like if you making it up, if you take a kid, for example, that is tall and extremely lanky, right? It's very uncomfortable with his height, 12 years old, uncomfortable, walks around school, shoulders slouched because they're not comfortable in their skin, right?
Right.
Now you move them to the basketball court where now they don't want to play the post because they think it's not cool to play the post.
It's not cool to play the post
kids,
anymore. They're on the wing.
just saying.
Right.
So all the kids are playing the perimeter, right? And so how do you connect that story to human nature, right?
I have no idea.
Right.
Tell me.
So if you take the kid and through sport, you teach the kid how to play the post. You teach them that there's beauty in playing the post. What you're saying to the kid is that there's beauty in being who you are. There's beauty in playing to your strengths. Mm-hmm. So now through the sport, when the kid's walking down that hallway in school, he's not slouching his shoulders anymore, right? He's comfortable with who he is. He's accepting who he is. And you can absolutely do that through sport.
So what about adults here? These are all fully formed adults.
All right,
Not very successful.
Must be another tall person back there.
That's right.
All right, I'm with you.
Get them down in the post. Get them down in the post. But for our group here and for adults everywhere, we derive meaning from athletes because we sort of put our stories onto them, right? The struggles, right? It's a mythological undertaking unto itself. But what would you teach this group here tonight? If there's one thing they can take away from your experience, what is it?
Follow your passion first. First. When I retired from the game, I sat there asking kind of all the wrong questions. What's the biggest industry I can get into? And it's all the wrong stuff. And you got to sit there and ask yourself, okay, what am I truly passionate about? What do I enjoy doing? And when you feel that way, honestly, you feel like you have never worked a day in your life. It's the most fun thing in the world. You get up in the morning excited about what you're doing. And you got to be really honest with yourself about it. If you wake up in the morning and you're dreading going to work, do something else. Right. Do something else. And those are hard decisions to make. But when you make those decisions, it's a very liberating experience. And you find out that the rewards will come.
All right. So are you going to check the scores of tonight's games, or are you going to let it go?
I have no championship on the line. I have absolutely no reason to check the scores.
All right.
So
the transition is complete.
The transition is complete. Well, we're working on it.
Wait. So you're working on it, meaning you can't let it go entirely just yet? You love the game.
Dude, what the hell? Where'd you pull that from? No, I mean the transition in the sense of moving into this new industry.
All right. Right? I thought you meant the transition away from basketball.
No. I appreciate the reach.
Okay, all right.
But no, it's
I'm
the
just
two
a
industries.
storyteller out here. I'm just a storyteller.
There's storytellers, and then there's, I'm not into fiction. That's not. But there's the two industries, right? The investment industry, the storytelling industry. Those are the two businesses that I'm absolutely locked in and focused on.
Right. Well, you're at peace, and I think for a lot of people, seeing someone go through that transition is a point of inspiration. So thanks to Kobe Bryant for joining us this evening.
Appreciate it. Thank you,
Thanks.
guys.